Okay, so we just have a slides for the Cornebacteria, diphtheria, and I'm going to draw on the blackboard. We're going to talk about there a little bit detail. Okay, so this is Cornebacteria, diphtheria, D-I-P-H, diphtheria. Okay, so first of all, Cornebacteria, what that means? What means a corner? This is coming from a Greek word. Okay, a Greek letter, which means club. Okay, so what is Cornebacteria really means? This is gram positive, rods, and club shape. This information is very important. Remember, when we talk about the gram stem, we need to talk about the gram reaction, positive or negative, morphology, rods or coxail, and the arrangement, which is single or club shape. So that's why that information is important, because this is typical for Cornebacteria, diphtheria. Okay, so this is the first information you need to know. Number one. Second, what is the symptoms will cause Cornebacteria, diphtheria? There are two symptoms. Number one, which is ball neck. What is a ball neck? Let's say you have a kids right here. Okay, I'm not good drawing. I'll draw here. Then that neck is very thick. Now what means thick? Which means you have a swelling of lymph nodes. Okay, so that's why you have a ball neck. Second is we call it a pseudo membrane in tonsil area. Okay, so what happened is, if you want to open the mouth, this tonsil area, you have that greenish, soft, and also bleeding, could cause bleeding. Okay, so the story usually what happened is immigrant kids. In their own country, they have not get a vaccine. They go to United States. Usually most of the kids are less than 5 years old, or sometimes we're between 5 to 12 years old. And then the kids is like crying. They go to see a doctor. The doctor says, open your mouth. Then they open your mouth, and then say and then the doctor use a cotton swab, and they will touch the tonsil area. When they touch the tonsil area, you will see it's like a soft greenish pseudomembrane, and they start to have a bleeding. Okay, so that usually is using for a swab. So that's a pseudomembrane in the tonsil area. That's a second very characteristic symptoms. Now, number three, I want to mention, when I just tell you a story, I said about it's immigrant kids. Why? Because in the United States, we have a vaccine called the DTaP. This is a vaccine which can prevent one shot is 3 jobs. This D means diphtheria. So that's Cornebacteria, diphtheria. T is Clostridium tetanus. Tetanus. We will mention this later on. A is not meaning. That's called acellular. What the P means, that is body therapeuticus. Okay, that's what is called diphtheria. So that is DTaP. It's required to give a shot as young as 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, then 15 to 18 months, and 4 to 6 years old. And we say it's give a booster. The reason it's only activate T cell. Okay, so there is only activate T cell lines. There's no antibody will be there. So that's the third thing we want to mention. Now the fourth thing I want to mention. This is a pathogen. It's called AB toxin. So what means AB toxin? Which is a combination. So A is a toxin domain. This will have toxin domain is exotoxin. Now B is transmembrane domain. This transmembrane domain will cause bleeding. That's why you see the cytomembrane system will have a bleeding. Now that exotoxin will be translocated from the tonsil and then go to the alveoli cells, which means go to the lung area. Okay? So that's AB toxin. Now AB toxin, later on what they do, we mentioned it's prevent the host cell, the RNA translation. Okay, so that is for the AB toxin. Now there's another thing I want to mention. This is one. We call it a localized. So which means the toxin will be transferred, but the bacteria is always going to be in that tonsil area. That's why lots of you are going to want to take off the tonsil when you were young, because that's a reservoir for the bacteria, we just mentioned. Now number 5, a little bit something else. This is a toxin. Since this is a toxin, so why we will have this toxin? People say there is a beta phage cause this toxin, cause this AB toxin. Now what the story is, phage is a virus. This virus will be invade a bacteria. And then their DNA or RNA, the genetic information, actually is integrated into host cell DNA or RNA. Actually, it's DNA. Okay, so that is the terminology for that called the lyse journey conversion. So the story is a long time ago. They think about the beta phage. The beta phage find Cornebacteria, and then they invade their sequencing into the host cell DNA.